I held my 3-year-old son's birthday cake in one hand and divorce papers in the other, watching my wife kiss another man through our kitchen window, the same man whose eyes stared back at me from my son's face. The cake was still warm from the bakery, chocolate, 3 candles shaped like little superheroes. Tyler had picked them out himself last week, pointing at each one with sticky fingers. "Daddy, these ones, the red cape guy." The vanilla buttercream smell should have been sweet. Instead, it made my stomach turn. I set the cake down slowly on the porch table, counted to 10, made a decision that would end everything I thought I knew. If you've ever had a moment that split your life into before and after, you know this feeling. The sound disappears, your hands go numb. You watch yourself from somewhere above your own body, like you're a character in someone else's nightmare. Leave, I understand, if you've been there, because what came next, I wouldn't wish on anyone. I didn't knock. I walked through my own front door like a stranger entering a crime scene. The kitchen was empty by then. I heard water running upstairs, her shower, the same shower where she'd washed off evidence for God knows how long. The cake sat on the counter where I'd left it. 3 candles, superhero smiles. Tyler's laughter from the living room. He was watching cartoons, oblivious. The sound of childhood innocence, the kind that doesn't know what's about to break. I stood there for 5 minutes, maybe 10. When you're watching your marriage die in real time, minutes stretch into something else, something heavier. That night, after Tyler blew out his candles and went to bed, I didn't sleep. I opened my laptop in the guest room I'd started calling my office and began documenting everything I could remember. Dates, times, the nights she came home late, the business trips that seemed too frequent, the way she'd started putting her phone face down on every surface. But memory isn't evidence. Memory is just pain dressed up as fact. I needed proof. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 6 years. Sarah took Tyler to preschool like always, kissed me on the forehead like always, told me to feel better. Her perfume was different. When had that changed? I sat in my car in our driveway for 20 minutes after she left, gripping the steering wheel, knuckles white. Then I went inside and started looking. Her laptop was password protected, but I knew the password. Our anniversary. October 14th. The irony would hit me later, like a brick to the skull. I opened her email first. Nothing obvious, then her photo cloud. That's where the first crack appeared. Family Vacation 2023, the folder I was looking for. Pictures of Tyler at the beach. Pictures of Sarah in a sundress. Pictures of us, smiling, the kind of photos you'd frame and put on a mantle to prove you're happy. I scrolled and found pictures of her with him. Not old pictures, not running into an ex pictures. These were recent, intimate. The timestamp read July 28th, 2023, the same week I was 3 states away, sitting in a hospital room while my mother died. The same week Sarah said she needed space to process and stayed home with Tyler instead of coming with me. The cold glass of my phone pressed against my palm, blue light in the dark room. I forwarded every photo to myself, created a folder on my laptop labeled evidence. The word felt sterile, clinical, like I was building a case instead of dismantling a life. I kept searching. Credit card statements, I'd never looked at them closely before. We had separate accounts for independence, she'd said. I logged into the shared account we used for household expenses. Started scrolling backwards through 3 months of charges. March 14th, Hilton Hotel downtown, $243. March 21st, Bistro Laurent, $168. April 9th, Hilton again, same rate. I pulled out a yellow highlighter from the desk drawer. The smell of it, that chemical marker smell, burned in my nostrils. I printed the statements, all 3 months, highlighted every hotel charge, every restaurant I'd never been to, every suspicious expense. The paper felt crisp under my fingers, accusing. The pattern was there. Every other week, like clockwork. Sometimes twice a week. I opened my phone again and pulled up the photos. Cross-referenced the dates. They matched. Every single one. My hands shook as I stapled the pages together. Evidence doesn't lie. People do. I opened the folder labeled Family Vacation 2023 one more time. Looked at the pictures of my wife with him, taken the same week I was visiting my dying mother. And something inside me went cold. Not angry, not sad. Just cold. The kind of cold that lets you do what comes next without flinching. Tyler's next pediatrician appointment was on a Thursday. Routine checkup. 3-year wellness exam. Sarah couldn't make it. Work emergency, she'd said. So it was just me and Tyler in the waiting room. Him playing with blocks, me staring at a poster about hand washing. Dr. Patel called us in. Warm smile. Same doctor Tyler had had since birth. She checked his height, his weight, listened to his heart. He's perfect, she said. Growing right on schedule. Then she pulled up his chart on the computer, typed a few notes. Blood type O positive, same as last year, she said absently. Good to have on record. I felt my chest tighten. What's my blood type? I asked. She glanced at me, curious. You'd have to check your own records. Why do you ask? Just wondering. That night, I dug through my filing cabinet until I found my blood donor card from college, type A. I Googled blood type genetics like a man possessed. The science was simple, brutal. A parent with type A and type O can produce A or O children, but 2 type A parents can't produce type O. Ever. It's biologically impossible. Sarah was type A. I'd seen her medical bracelet enough times to know. Tyler was type O. I stared at the computer screen until the words blurred, refreshed the page, read it again. The science didn't change. It never does. I walked into Tyler's room. He was asleep, curled up with his stuffed elephant, chest rising and falling with the easy breath of a child who trusts the world. I stood in the doorway for a long time, looked at his face, really looked. Dark hair where mine was light, brown eyes where mine were blue, a chin shape that wasn't mine, wasn't Sarah's. Features I'd explained away as, he takes after your grandmother, or kids change as they grow. On his dresser sat a piece of construction paper, his latest drawing from preschool. The teacher had written, "My family" across the top in neat letters. Tyler had drawn 4 stick figures in crayon. The waxy texture of the drawing caught the nightlight glow. 4 people. I counted again. 1 small figure labeled "me" in backwards letters. 1 figure with long hair. Mom. 1 figure that must have been me, labeled Dad, but the proportions were wrong, too short. And then a 4th figure, taller than Dad, darker hair, carefully colored in, wearing what looked like a suit, holding the mom figure's hand. My son had drawn 4 people in his family picture, and the 4th person wasn't me. The 4th person had darker hair, wore a suit, and held Mommy's hand. I confronted her on a Tuesday. Not planned, not strategic. I just couldn't keep it inside anymore. Tyler was at my mother-in-law's house for a sleepover. The house was quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that amplifies every word, every breath, every lie. I'd laid the credit card statements on the kitchen table, 3 months of highlighted charges, the photos printed out, the dates matched and circled in red, a timeline of betrayal, organized like a court exhibit. Sarah came home at 7. She saw the papers before she saw my face. "Marcus," she said. My name in her mouth sounded like a warning. "Sit down. I don't think—" "Sit down." She sat. Wouldn't look at the papers, kept her eyes on me, measuring, calculating. I slid the first statement across the table. March 14th, Hilton Hotel. "What were you doing there?" "Marcus, don't—" "March 21st, Bistro Laurent? Were you with him? She reached for her phone. I was faster, grabbed it from the table. She lunged for it and I held it away, watching something in her face shift from defensive to desperate. Give me my phone. Answer the question. You're being paranoid. Paranoid? I laughed. It didn't sound like my laugh. I have photos, Sarah, time-stamped, dated. I have 3 months of hotel receipts. My voice cracked. I hated myself for it. I have Tyler's drawing with 4 people in it. 4. He drew you holding another man's hand. The color drained from her face. Kids draw weird things, she whispered. Is he mine? The question hung in the air like smoke, heavy, suffocating. She didn't say, of course he is. She didn't say, how dare you. She didn't say any of the things an innocent person would say when accused of the unthinkable. She said, you don't want to know the answer to that question, Marcus. Trust me. Everything stopped. The refrigerator hum, the clock ticking, the sound of my heart beating in my ears. What did you just say? I'm saying... She stood up, pacing now, hands shaking. I'm saying we have a good life. We have Tyler. We have this house. We have... Why would you want to ruin that? Why would I couldn't finish, couldn't breathe. You're not denying it. I'm not doing this. You're not denying it, Sarah. She grabbed her purse, grabbed her keys, walked toward the door. Where are you going? She stopped, hand on the doorknob, wouldn't turn around. If you pursue this, she said quietly, if you go down this road, you're going to lose everything. Your son, your family, your... Her voice broke. Don't do this. Some doors once opened can't be closed, I said. The words felt borrowed. Like someone else's wisdom, I was trying on for size. You opened this door, not me. She left. The door clicked shut with a sound like finality. I sat at the kitchen table for 3 hours, staring at the evidence I'd assembled. The papers, the photos, the timeline, and I knew what I had to do next. The DNA test kit arrived in a discreet blue box 2 days later. Amazon Prime. Same-day delivery. The future of paternity doubt. Packaged in sterile plastic. I opened it in my car in the work parking lot during lunch. 2 cheek swabs. Instructions printed in small font. A prepaid envelope. The whole thing felt dystopian. Clinical. Like I was swabbing away 3 years of fatherhood with a Q-tip. That night, while Tyler brushed his teeth, I explained it like a game. Daddy needs to do a test, I said. It's like when the doctor looks in your throat, open wide. He opened his mouth, toothpaste foam on his lips. Trusting, always trusting. I swabbed his cheek, the rough texture of it, the way he giggled because it tickled, the way he asked, "What's this for, Daddy?" "Just a checkup," I lied, "to make sure you're the strongest boy in the world." "Am I?" "You are, buddy." I swabbed my own cheek in the bathroom, sealed both samples in their individual containers, filled out the laboratory intake form with a ballpoint pen. My hand trembled. The signature didn't look like mine, too shaky, too uncertain. But I pressed down hard anyway, making it official. The form asked for relationship to child. I checked the box that said alleged father, alleged. The word made me want to throw up. I drove to the FedEx drop box at midnight. Couldn't wait. Couldn't have that envelope in my house another minute. The metal slot clanged when I dropped it in. A sound like a death knell. A sound like the end of everything. The lab confirmation email arrived at 6:47 a.m. Sample received. Results in 7 business days. I had 7 days to pretend I was still his father. Day 1. I made Tyler pancakes. He wanted them shaped like dinosaurs, but I couldn't make the tail work right, so they looked more like blobs with heads. He ate them anyway, syrup everywhere, laughing at something on his iPad. I watched him chew, watched the way his cheeks moved, wondered whose cheeks those were. Day 2. Sarah texted, "We need to talk." I didn't respond. What was left to say? She'd already said everything that mattered when she told me I didn't want to know the truth. Day 3, work called. I'd missed 2 meetings. My boss, Kevin, asked if everything was okay at home. Fine, I said. Just a stomach bug. Lies come easier when you're already living one. Day 4, Tyler's preschool had a father-son event. We made birdhouses out of popsicle sticks and glue. He held up his crooked creation like it was the Sistine Chapel. "For you, Daddy," he said, "so birds can live at our house." I put it on my desk at home. Couldn't look at it without my throat closing up. Day 5. I drove past the Hilton downtown, slowed down, thought about going in, asking the desk clerk if they remembered a woman with dark hair, a man in a suit. Thought about becoming that person, the one who hunts for evidence in hotel lobbies. I kept driving. Day 6. My best friend Daniel called. We'd known each other since college, been in each other's weddings. I almost told him everything. Almost. Instead, I said I was busy and hung up. How do you tell someone your entire life might be built on a lie? How do you say those words out loud? That night, Mrs. Patterson from next door knocked on the door with a casserole. "You've been looking thin, Marcus," she said, all motherly concern. I thanked her, put it in the fridge, never ate it. The smell of it, chicken and cream of mushroom soup, made me nauseous. Day 6, bedtime. Tyler wanted his favorite story. The Giving Tree, the one about unconditional love and sacrifice. I read it in autopilot, the words familiar and hollow. When I got to the part where the tree gives everything away until there's nothing left but a stump, my voice cracked. Tyler looked up at me, his brown eyes, not my blue ones, wide with concern. "Daddy, why do you look at me like you're sad all the time now?" I closed the book, set it down carefully, like it might shatter. "I'm not sad, buddy. I'm just tired." "Mommy says you're sick." "Did she?" He nodded. "She says you need space. What's space mean?" I pulled him close, hugged him tighter than I should have. He smelled like kid shampoo and that specific scent of childhood, graham crackers and playground mulch and innocence. "Space means I love you," I whispered into his hair. "That's all it means." He fell asleep in my arms. I carried him to bed, tucked him in with his stuffed elephant, watched his chest rise and fall. 3 years of this. 3 years of bedtime stories and skinned knees and first words and believing I was watching my son grow up. Maybe I was, maybe biology doesn't matter, or maybe every moment together was just a reminder of a betrayal I'd swallowed whole. Day 7. The email arrived at 2:17 p.m. Subject line, DNA test results, case number 847392. I was at work, sitting in my cubicle. Kevin was laughing about something in the break room. Someone's printer was jamming, normal office sounds. The world continuing like nothing was about to end. I didn't open it, not there. Not surrounded by fluorescent lights and coworkers and the smell of burned coffee. I told Kevin I had a doctor's appointment, left early, drove home in silence. No radio, no podcast, just the sound of my breathing and the hum of the engine. Sarah's car wasn't in the driveway. Tyler was at preschool until 5. The house was empty. I sat in my car for 15 minutes, stared at my phone. The email notification glowed on the screen. "Open it," I said out loud. "Just open it." My hands shook. I went inside. Made coffee I wouldn't drink. Paced the kitchen. Looked at Tyler's birdhouse on the counter. Looked at the family photo on the fridge. All 3 of us at the zoo last summer, smiling, Tyler on my shoulders pointing at elephants. My phone sat on the table like an unexploded bomb. At 3:42 p.m. I opened the email. The PDF loaded slowly, too slowly, then all at once. Genetic testing, laboratory paternity, test report, case number 847392, date of report, May 15th, 2024. Alleged father, Marcus Brennan, DOB 03 and 12, 1989. Child, Tyler Brennan, DOB 008, 2021. Results, combined paternity. Index, us probability of paternity, 0.0%. Conclusion: Marcus Brennan is excluded as the biological father of Tyler Brennan. I read it 3 times. The words didn't change. They never would. Probability of paternity: 0.00%. Not low, not unlikely. 0. I scrolled to the second page. Genetic markers, alleles, scientific terms I barely understood. And then, at the bottom, a section I almost missed. Estimated conception window: October 11th to 17, 2020. October 14th, 2020. Our anniversary. The anniversary I'd planned for 6 months. Reservations at her favorite restaurant. A weekend at that bed and breakfast she'd been wanting to try. 2 nights away from work and stress and everything except us. Except it hadn't been just us. I walked to the bathroom, threw up, sat on the tile floor with my back against the tub. The envelope, yellow manila, lab seal, official letterhead, sat on the counter where I'd dropped it. My phone buzzed. Sarah. Picking up Tyler. Be home by 5:30. I didn't respond. I sat there until the light outside changed from afternoon to evening, until shadows filled the bathroom and the house felt like a tomb. At some point, I stood up, walked to Tyler's room, looked at his toys scattered on the floor, cars and blocks and that stuffed elephant, looked at the drawings taped to his wall, looked at the photo of us at his 2nd birthday party, cake on his face, my arms around him. 3 years of fatherhood, 3 years of diapers and doctor visits and teaching him to say please and thank you. 3 years of believing I was building a life. 3 years of living a lie on our anniversary weekend. For everyone still watching at 24 minutes, thank you for bearing witness. Drop. I'm sorry, Marcus, to let others know they're not alone in this, because what I did next, I had to do alone. The lawyer's office smelled like leather and old books. Rebecca Hartwell had been recommended by Daniel after I finally broke down and told him everything. She's tough, he'd said. She'll fight for you. I sat across from her desk with the DNA results in a folder, professional, like I was presenting a business case instead of the death certificate of my marriage. Rebecca was maybe 50, gray hair and a sharp bob, reading glasses on a chain. She'd been doing family law for 23 years. Her walls were covered in diplomas and certificates and photos of her with what looked like grateful clients. She read the results in silence, flipped through the pages, set them down. I'm sorry, she said. I know that doesn't help, but I am. Can I? My voice came out rough. Can I get out of paying child support if he's not mine? She folded her hands on the desk, the gesture of someone about to deliver bad news. Did you sign the birth certificate? Yes. Were you married to his mother when he was born? Yes. She nodded slowly. In this state, if you signed the birth certificate and were married at the time of birth, you're considered the legal father regardless of biology. It's called presumptive paternity. The words hit like punches. Legal father regardless of biology. But I was lied to, I said. She committed fraud. I understand. And morally, you're absolutely right. But legally, she pulled out a calculator, started typing numbers. Based on your income and the state guidelines, you'd be looking at approximately $1,800 per month in child support until he turns 18. $1,800 for 15 years for a child who wasn't mine. I did the math in my head. Over $300,000. Even if I can prove she cheated, even if I have DNA evidence, even then. She leaned forward. Marcus, the law is designed to protect the child, not to punish fraud. The courts see it as, Tyler has known you as his father for 3 years. You've established paternity through your actions. Taking that away would harm him. And what about harming me? She didn't have an answer for that. We sat in silence. The clock on her wall ticked. Outside, traffic sounds, the normal world continuing. There are cases we can cite, she said finally. Paternity fraud is gaining more recognition. If we can prove your wife knowingly deceived you, If we can demonstrate the emotional harm, we might get a judge to rule in your favor. But it's an uphill battle. How uphill? Everest, she said. I won't lie to you. The system isn't designed for this, but she pulled out a legal pad, started writing. If you're willing to fight, I'm willing to fight with you. I looked at the DNA results on her desk. 0%. Black and white. Scientific truth. My lawyer said, even if the child isn't yours, you may still owe 15 years of support. You signed the birth certificate. In this state, that's binding. I signed her retainer agreement right there, $5,000 down. Everything I'd saved for Tyler's college fund. The irony wasn't lost on me. I met him on a Wednesday. The biological father, the other man. The reason my life was currently scattered in pieces. His name was David fucking Morrison. Sarah had finally given me his information after the lawyer sent her the divorce papers. A last-ditch attempt to make me see reason, she'd said. Maybe if you talk to him, you'll understand this isn't what you think. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral territory, public place. I told Daniel where I'd be, just in case. In case of what? He'd asked. In case I do something stupid, I'd said. David arrived 5 minutes early. I watched him through the window. Tall, taller than me. Dark hair going gray at the temples. Suit and tie, even though it was Saturday. He ordered black coffee, sat at the table we'd agreed on, looked nervous. Good. He should be nervous. I walked in at exactly 11 a.m. He stood up when he saw me, extended his hand. I didn't shake it. We sat. 2 coffee cups between us. Neither of us touched them. Thank you for meeting me, he said. I said nothing. I know this is... He stopped, started again. There's no good way to have this conversation. Then don't, I said. I didn't come here for apologies. Then why did you come? Good question. Why had I come? To yell at him? To punch him? To understand how someone ruins another man's life and sleeps at night? I want to know if you knew, I said. When it started. Did you know she was married? He looked down at his coffee. Not at first. We met at a conference. Charlotte, North Carolina. She wasn't wearing a ring. We talked for hours. She was... He caught himself. She didn't mention you. When did you find out? 3 months in. I saw a photo on her phone. You and her and... He stopped. Tyler, I said. His name is Tyler. Tyler, he repeated. I saw the photo and I asked. She told me the marriage was over, that you were separated, that she was waiting for the right time to file. And you believed her. I wanted to, he said quietly. Is that the same thing? I wanted to hate him. Wanted it to be simple. He was the villain. I was the victim. Sarah was the betrayer. Clean lines, clear roles. But he looked miserable. Genuinely miserable. Did you know about the baby? I asked. He nodded. She told me she was pregnant. I asked if it was mine. She said she wasn't sure. Said she'd handle it. He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo. Tyler at maybe 6 months old. Sarah had sent it to him. The caption read, "He has your eyes." I stared at the photo, at my son, not my son in Sarah's arms, at the date stamp, at the evidence that this man had known about Tyler since birth, while I'd been changing diapers and singing lullabies and believing I was raising my child. Why didn't you push for a paternity test? My voice came out colder than I meant. She said it would destroy you, that you were happy, that Tyler had a stable home. She said... He set the phone down. She said the kindest thing we could do was let you keep believing. The kindest thing. I laughed, couldn't help it. The sound came out bitter and wrong. Here's a question, I said. If you were Marcus, would you have met the biological father face to face? Or would you have just stayed away? He met my eyes. I'm asking myself the same thing. I reached into my bag, pulled out the printed Facebook messages the lawyer had subpoenaed, the affair timeline, the hotel receipts, the evidence that contradicted every word Sarah had told both of us. I slid them across the table. "She told you the marriage was over in month 3, I said. "These messages show she was telling you she loved you while texting me about couples therapy. She told you I was cold and distant while we were literally on vacation together. She told you—" I stopped, breathed. "She told both of us exactly what we needed to hear to keep us where she wanted us." He read the messages. I watched his face change, watched the realization hit. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I didn't either," I said. "That's the problem." We sat there, 2 men who'd been played by the same person. 2 men staring at their coffee cups like they might hold answers. Finally, David said, "I'm not gonna fight for custody." I looked up. He struggled with the words. "Tyler doesn't know me. You're his father in every way that matters except biology. I won't take that from him, or from you." "Noble," I said. The word came out sharp. "It's not noble, it's just—" He looked at me, really looked. "I didn't know she was married until month 3. By then, we were—" and she told me she'd end it. He pulled out his wallet, showed me a photo tucked behind his driver's license. Tyler, maybe a year old, smiling at the camera. "That's when I realized she wasn't lying about one thing," he said softly. "He does have my eyes." I stood up. Couldn't be there anymore. Couldn't look at that photo or his face or the proof that my son's DNA belonged to a stranger in a coffee shop. "For what it's worth," David said as I turned to leave. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. No excuses, no justifications, just truth." I walked out without responding, left my coffee untouched on the table, left him sitting there with his guilt and his photos and his apologies, drove home and sat in my empty driveway and cried for the first time since the envelope arrived. The deposition happened 3 weeks later. Sarah, her lawyer, my lawyer, a court reporter, and a camera. Everything recorded, everything official. I wasn't allowed in the room. Rebecca said it was better that way. But she gave me the transcript afterward. 73 pages of questions and answers, legal document paper, line numbers down the side, every word captured for posterity. I read it alone in my apartment, the new apartment I'd moved into after moving out of the house. 1 bedroom, barely furnished. The kind of place you live when your life falls apart and you're starting over at 35. Excerpt, Deposition of Sarah Brennan. Page 23, lines 14-28. Q. "Mrs. Brennan, when did your relationship with Mr. Morrison begin?" A. I don't remember exact dates. Q. Approximately. A. Spring of 2020. Q. And were you married to Marcus Brennan at that time? A. Yes. Q. Did you inform Mr. Morrison you were married? A. Not right away. Q. When did you inform him? A. A few months in. Q. And your relationship continued after that? A. Yes. Rebecca had highlighted certain sections in yellow, the important parts, the damning parts. Page 31, lines 7-22. Q. Mrs. Brennan, when did you become pregnant with Tyler? A. October 2020. Q. Were you having sexual relations with your husband at that time? A. Yes. Q. Were you also having sexual relations with Mr. Morrison? A. Pause. A. Yes. Q. Did you know who the biological father was? A. A 14-second pause, noted by court reporter. A. I suspected. I stopped reading, stared at that last line. I suspected. Not, I didn't know. Not, it could have been either. Not even, I hoped it was Marcus. She suspected, for 3 years, through pregnancy and birth and midnight feedings and first steps. Through every moment I'd believed Tyler was mine. She suspected he wasn't. And she let me keep believing. When asked, did you know Marcus wasn't the father? She paused for 14 seconds. The court reporter noted it. Then she said, I suspected. I kept reading. Couldn't stop. It was like picking at a wound. Page 45, lines 3 about 18 Q. Did you ever consider telling your husband the truth? A. It would have destroyed him. Q. So you chose to deceive him instead? A. I chose to protect my family. K. By lying. A. By keeping us together. Q. Mrs. Brennan, do you feel you owe your husband an apology? A. Pause. A. I don't think an apology fixes this. She was right about that. An apology doesn't fix this. Nothing fixes this, Rebecca called that evening. The deposition went well for us, she said. Her admissions are stronger than I expected. The 14-second pause, the I suspected answer, a jury will crucify her. Good, I said. There's something else. She paused. David Morrison's lawyer reached out. He's willing to testify on your behalf. Says Sarah lied to him too about the marriage. It corroborates your fraud claim. The enemy of my enemy. Use him, I said. Doors we opened that day would never close. But maybe, just maybe, some of them led somewhere better than where I'd been. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, not in the mail. Tyler brought it home from preschool in his backpack, tucked between a permission slip for the zoo and a painting of what might have been a dinosaur. The envelope was construction paper, red crayon spelling across the front, Dear Daddy. I stood in my apartment kitchen, the small one with the humming refrigerator and the single chair at the table, and stared at it for 5 minutes before opening it. Inside, lined paper, the kind with dotted lines to help kids write straight. His handwriting sprawled across it in green crayon, letters uneven, some backwards, a tear stain in the bottom right corner. I couldn't tell if it was his or if it would be mine. Dear Daddy, Mom says you might not be my dad anymore, but can you still teach me to ride a bike because you promised? I practiced waiting, but I keep failing. I love you, your son, Tyler. My hands shook so hard I couldn't read the rest. There was more. A drawing underneath the words, 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, both smiling, both holding a bicycle with training wheels. A sun in the corner. He'd drawn the rays like he always did, straight lines coming out like a cartoon. He'd labeled the tall figure, Best Dad. I sat down. The chair scraped against the floor. The letter fell from my hands to the table. The green crayon words stared up at me. Can you still teach me to ride a bike because you promised? I had promised last summer. We'd bought the bike together, red with white handlebar streamers, and I'd said we'd practice in the fall when it cooled down. But fall had come and gone, and so had I. The drawing showed us together, still together. In Tyler's mind, I was still his dad, still the person who taught him things, still the one who kept promises. My son drew 4 people in his family picture once. Now he drew 2, just us, like he was erasing everyone else, holding on to the one person he thought wouldn't leave. I picked up my phone, put it down, picked it up again. What do you say to a 3-year-old who doesn't understand why his father disappeared? How do you explain that love and biology aren't the same thing? That you can love someone completely and still need to walk away to survive? He wrote, Mom says you might not be my dad anymore, but can you still teach me to ride a bike because you promised? My hands shook so hard I couldn't read the rest. I called Rebecca. I got a letter, I said, from Tyler. Silence on her end. Then, what does it say? I read it to her. My voice broke on, I love you. Had to stop, breathe, continue. When I finished, she said quietly, I'm sorry, Marcus. I don't know what to do. You're allowed to feel this, she said. You're allowed to love him and still need distance. Both things can be true. He wants me to teach him to ride a bike. Do you want to? Did I? Every time I looked at Tyler, I saw Sarah's lie, saw David's eyes, saw 3 years of deception wearing a child's face. But I also saw the kid who used to fall asleep on my chest, who called me when he had nightmares, who drew me as best dad even after I'd moved out. I don't know, I whispered. That's okay too, Rebecca said. But Marcus, the trial is in 6 weeks. Whatever you decide about Tyler, decide it after. Don't make this choice while you're still in the fire. She was right. She was always right. I folded the letter carefully, put it back in the construction paper envelope, placed it on my refrigerator with a magnet. Every morning for the next 6 weeks, I woke up and saw it. Dare Datey. Every morning, it broke my heart a little more. The courthouse was downtown. Old building, marble floors, high ceilings that made every sound echo. I'd been here twice before for preliminary hearings. This was the main event. Rebecca met me outside courtroom 4. She wore a navy suit, carried a leather briefcase I'd learned was full of evidence. Our evidence. The proof that my marriage was a fraud and my fatherhood was a lie. Ready? She asked. I wasn't. But I nodded anyway. Inside the room was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling. The seal of the state on the wall behind the judge's bench. Rows of seats for observers. Some were full. This case had gotten attention. Local news had picked it up. Man sues over paternity fraud was apparently compelling television. Sarah sat at the defendant's table with her lawyer. She didn't look at me. Hadn't looked at me since the deposition. Her dark hair was pulled back. She wore a dress I recognized, the blue one she'd worn to my mother's funeral. The irony. David Morrison sat in the gallery. Rebecca had called him as a witness. He'd flown in from Charlotte. When our eyes met, he nodded once. An acknowledgement. We were on the same side now, in the strangest alliance I'd never wanted. All rise. The Honorable Judge Edward Morrison presiding. Different Morrison. No relation. Rebecca had checked. The judge entered. Older man, gray beard, reading glasses. He sat, arranged his papers, looked out at the courtroom with the expression of someone who had seen every variation of human messiness. Be seated, he said. Case number 2024, DR 8847, Brennan versus Brennan. Dissolution of marriage, dispute over child support, and paternity fraud claims. Rebecca stood. Your Honor, if it please the court, we'd like to present evidence first. Proceed. She walked to the evidence board we'd set up the night before. It was mounted on an easel, visible to everyone in the courtroom. A timeline, photos, documents, everything organized chronologically. This was it. 3 years of lies displayed for public consumption. Rebecca pointed to the first section. Your Honor, this is the defendant, Sarah Brennan, with David Morrison. The time stamp on these photos shows July 28th, 2023, the same week my client was in Pennsylvania attending to his dying mother. She moved to the next section, credit card statements highlighted in yellow. Hotel receipts spanning 6 months. Multiple charges to the Hilton downtown, Bistro Laurent, various establishments. These charges were made on a shared credit card my client had no reason to scrutinize. He trusted his wife. The judge leaned forward, studying the board. DNA evidence. Rebecca placed the lab results on the board, the one with 0.0% in bold. Combined paternity index, 0. Probability of paternity, 0%. Marcus Brennan is not the biological father of Tyler Brennan. She placed Tyler's drawing next to it, the one with 4 people, the 4th figure holding Mommy's hand. This drawing was made by Tyler, age 3, 6 months before my client discovered the affair. Even the child knew something my client didn't. There was another man in the family. Judge Morrison picked up his glasses, examined the board. The courtroom was silent except for the scratch of the court reporter's keys. Mrs. Brennan, the judge said, would you like to explain this to the court? Sarah's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client admits to infidelity. She admits to poor judgment, but she disputes that she committed fraud. She believed... I'm not asking your client's lawyer, Judge Morrison interrupted. I'm asking Mrs. Brennan. Stand up, please. Sarah stood. Her hands gripped the table. Did you have an affair with Mr. David Morrison? Yes, Your Honor. Did you know there was a possibility Tyler was not your husband's biological child? 14 seconds of silence. I counted. Everyone counted. I suspected, she said finally. You suspected. The judge wrote something down. Did you inform your husband of this suspicion? No. Why not? Her voice caught. It would have destroyed our family. So you chose to lie instead. I chose to protect. You chose to lie, the judge said again, to your husband for 3 years, while he raised a child believing it was his, while he provided financially, emotionally, in every capacity, based on a lie you told and maintained. Sarah's lawyer tried to interject. Your Honor, my client, Judge Morrison held up a hand. Counselor, I'll hear your arguments in a moment. Right now I'm trying to understand how anyone justifies this level of deception. He turned to Rebecca. Call your next witness. David Morrison, Your Honor. David walked to the witness stand, swore to tell the truth, sat down looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. Rebecca kept it simple, asked him when the affair started, when he learned Sarah was married, what she'd told him about me. She said the marriage was over, David testified, that Marcus was cold, that they were separated in everything but paperwork. She said she was waiting for the right time to file for divorce. Did you believe her? Yes. He looked at me. I'm sorry, but yes. When did you learn the truth? When Marcus contacted me. When I saw the messages showing she was telling both of us different stories. He pulled out his phone. She texted me, I love you, can't wait to see you, at the same time she was texting him about couples therapy. She was living 2 lives. Rebecca entered the messages into evidence, passed copies to the judge. Sarah's lawyer cross-examined, tried to paint David as unreliable, as a co-conspirator. But the messages didn't lie. The dates didn't lie. The DNA didn't lie. When David stepped down, he walked past Sarah's table without looking at her. Type justice. If you think the ruling was fair, but hold that thought. Because what Judge Morrison said next, I'll never forget. The judge called a 15-minute recess. I stood outside the courtroom with Rebecca, drinking terrible courthouse coffee from a vending machine. It's going well, she said. Is it? Morrison's pissed, I can tell. He's seen a lot of family cases, but this one... She shook her head. Paternity fraud isn't common. When judges see it, really see it, it changes how they rule. What if he rules against us? Then we appeal. But Marcus... She squeezed my shoulder. Have a little faith. The evidence is overwhelming. We went back in. The courtroom felt stuffed with tension. Sarah wouldn't look at anyone now. Her lawyer kept whispering to her. Judge Morrison returned, arranged his papers, put on his reading glasses. I've reviewed the evidence, he began. I've heard testimony. I've read the depositions. And I want to be very clear about something. He looked directly at Sarah. This court sees many cases of infidelity. It's unfortunately common. People make mistakes. Marriages fall apart. That's human nature, and it's messy, and it's sad, but it happens. He picked up the DNA results. But this... He held it up. This is not just infidelity. This is calculated deception. Mrs. Brennan, you knew there was a possibility this child was not your husband's. You suspected it by your own admission. And you said nothing. You allowed him to sign a birth certificate. You allowed him to bond with this child for 3 years. You accepted his financial support, his emotional labor, his complete investment in a fatherhood based on a lie you told. Sarah's lawyer started to stand. The judge waved him down. I'm not finished. This court recognizes paternity fraud as a form of domestic abuse. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Sarah's face went white. Rebecca grabbed my hand under the table. The judge continued. It is emotional manipulation. It is financial exploitation. And it causes profound psychological harm to the victim. In this case, Mr. Brennan. He looked at me, really looked at me, saw me. Mr. Brennan, I'm sorry for what you've been through. No one should endure what you've endured. The law is often slow to recognize new forms of harm, but I believe this is one of them. Then he kept talking. I am ruling in favor of the plaintiff on all counts. The marriage is dissolved. No alimony will be awarded to Mrs. Brennan, and... He paused. Given the fraudulent basis of Mr. Brennan's presumed paternity, I am vacating his child support obligation. Mr. Brennan owes nothing. No child support, no alimony, just freedom. The courtroom exploded. Sarah's lawyer was on his feet, objecting. Sarah was crying. The court reporter's keys were flying. The judge banged his gavel 3 times. Order! Mrs. Brennan, you and your attorney will have the opportunity to appeal, but my ruling stands. Mr. Brennan is released from all financial and legal obligations related to a child who is not his biological son and whose paternity was obtained through fraud. He signed the order, the scratch of pen on paper, official, binding, done. This court is adjourned. I sat there, couldn't move, couldn't process. Rebecca was talking to me, but I couldn't hear her. The room was spinning, or I was spinning, or the whole world was finally standing still. David Morrison approached me on the courthouse steps. "Congratulations," he said. "Thanks. For what it's worth." He looked back at the courthouse. "I'm going to petition for custody, joint custody. She can't be trusted alone with this." I nodded. Didn't know what to say. Tyler would have a father after all. Just not me. "He should know you," David said quietly. "When he's older, if you want, he should know the man who loved him first. Maybe. Someday. When it didn't hurt so much to think about." "Good luck," I said. We shook hands this time. 2 men connected by a lie, separated by the truth, trying to figure out what came next. 6 months later, therapy helped. Dr. Ellen Park, recommended by Daniel, specialized in betrayal trauma. I saw her every Thursday at 4 p.m. for 6 months, talked through the anger, the grief, the complicated love I still felt for a child who wasn't mine. "You're allowed to miss him," she said in one session. "Love doesn't stop just because biology wasn't there. You love Tyler. That love was real, even if the foundation was built on lies. But I can't see him without remembering," she finished. "I know, and that's okay too. You get to choose healing over martyrdom." I'd moved to a better apartment, 2 bedrooms even though I lived alone, started working out again, reconnected with friends I'd ghosted during the worst of it, went on a few dates that went nowhere, but at least I tried. The divorce was finalized. Sarah moved to Charlotte, closer to David, though I heard they weren't together. Tyler stayed with her primary custody, David with weekends. The arrangement didn't involve me. I'd signed away my parental rights as part of the settlement. On my desk at home, the real desk now, in my real apartment with sunlight and plants and signs of life, sat Tyler's birdhouse. The crooked one made of popsicle sticks. I'd kept it. Didn't know why, couldn't throw it away. Next to it, 2 letters. I'd written them both 3 months after the trial. Both addressed to Tyler, both explaining in age-appropriate language what had happened. The first letter was honest, brutally honest. The one I'd written in anger and grief and raw truth. The second letter was gentler, softer. The one that left room for future contact if he wanted it, if I could handle it. I'd sealed the first one, never sent it. The second remained open on my desk, reread dozens of times, never mailed. "Tyler," it began, "I loved you with everything I had. That love was real, even if our biology wasn't. But I need to love myself now, and that means I can't be your father anymore. It's not fair to you, and it's killing me. Maybe someday, when you're older, we can talk. Until then, I hope you learn to ride that bike. I hope you grow up strong and kind. And I hope you know that leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever done, but staying would have destroyed us both." I never sent it. Couldn't. Maybe I never would. Dr. Park said that was okay. Closure doesn't always come from the other person, she had said. Sometimes it comes from inside you. Maybe fathers are made by showing up, but you have to show up for yourself first. I'd started showing up for myself, slowly, imperfectly, but showing up. My birthday came on a Tuesday, 36 years old. I took the day off work, slept in, made breakfast, actual breakfast, not just coffee, eggs and toast and orange juice like a person who had his shit together. Daniel called. "Happy birthday, man. Drinks tonight?" "Yeah, that sounds good." My mom called. She'd moved to Arizona after everything fell apart. Needed the sun, she said. "How are you, baby?" "I'm okay, Mom. Really." And I was. Not happy, not yet. But okay. Okay felt like victory. That evening, I bought myself a cake from the same bakery where I'd bought Tyler's 3 years ago. But this one was different. Vanilla instead of chocolate. Simple white frosting. A single candle in the middle. I set it on my kitchen counter. Looked at it for a long time. 3 years ago, I held a birthday cake and divorce papers and watched my life end. Today I held a birthday cake and nothing else. No papers, no crisis, no lies, just me and a cake and a single candle waiting to be lit. I lit it. The small flame flickered in the quiet apartment. Made a wish. Not for things to go back, not for Tyler to be mine biologically, not even for Sarah to face more consequences. I wished for truth. For the kind of truth that sets you free even when it breaks your heart. For the ability to choose myself without guilt. For peace. I blew out the candle. Smoke curled upward in the kitchen light. The smell of extinguished wick and vanilla frosting and new beginnings. On my fridge next to Tyler's letter, I'd hung a new photo. Just me. Hiking trip with Daniel last month. Smiling. Actually smiling. It wasn't forced. Next to it, a folder labeled New Chapter. Inside, a job offer from a firm in Seattle. A lease agreement for an apartment with a view of the Sound. Dr. Park's graduation note. "You've done the work. Be proud. Some doors close, new ones open. You choose which ones you walk through." I chose the door that led away from the comfortable lies and toward uncomfortable truth. Chose the door that meant losing Tyler but keeping myself. Chose the door that hurt like hell but opened onto clear air. I ate the cake slowly. Vanilla, sweet, mine. For the first time in 3 years, I slept through the night. No nightmares, no jolting awake wondering if Tyler was really mine. No phantom sounds of a 3-year-old calling daddy. Just sleep, deep and dreamless and peaceful. The next morning, I called the Seattle firm, accepted the job, gave my landlord notice, started packing up my life into boxes labeled for a future I was choosing instead of inheriting. In the last box, I placed a Tyler's birdhouse, wrapped it carefully in newspaper, wrote on the box, "Memories, handle with care." Because that's what they were now, memories, not my present, not my future, just the past I was learning to carry without letting it crush me. If you've rebuilt your life from ashes, share your story below. You're not alone. Some of us are still learning to breathe again. Some of us are further along. But we're all walking through doors we chose, even when choosing hurt more than staying ever could. No bitterness, no regret, just forward. I packed the last box, taped it shut, labeled it Seattle. Outside my window, the sun was rising. A new day, a new chapter, a new life built on truth instead of lies. And for the first time since I held that birthday cake 3 years ago, I felt something I'd forgotten existed. Hope.